All right, so what did I do at the end of the last video? I took my line art from Photopea. I saved it, of course, as a PSD file, but also as a PNG, put that onto my desktop and renamed it as a test file, right? I do it as a PNG. It doesn't really matter how you do it. It could be a JPEG too. But then I opened it in Adobe Illustrator, this paid program. And then I clicked on Image Trace under Properties and chose black and white logo. And then I opened up the advanced features of Image Trace, which you click here for the settings, and then you do the drop down here for advanced. Then I clicked on Ignore Color to get rid of the white. So let me show you all of that again. Okay, so I brought it in, open it in Illustrator, and it comes in pixelated, as a raster file, even though it's high resolution. I click on it with the large selection tool, the top, what looks like the move tool in Photoshop or Photopea. And then I click on Properties, and I scroll down to Image Trace. I then choose black and white logo. And all of a sudden, it just did something almost imperceptibly, and it changed it into a vector. But this is just a preview of a vector. It's not a vector yet, because I can play with the settings. So I click on this little window here. And I do not know why they make this so difficult. But I click on this window here, and then I get to the image trace options, which you can also get to under Window. And then, very important, I have to click on Ignore Color. Otherwise, it's going to trace, because we're doing a black and white logo setting, which is the simplest setting, but it's going to trace black shapes and white shapes. And then I'd have to delete all the white shapes. That would take forever. So instead, I'm just going to click on Ignore Color. And now I don't have to worry about white shapes anymore. Now I can play with these other advanced options. So for instance, when it's vectorizing, notice how some of these lines are kind of bleeding into each other, getting really close. I can take the threshold down, and it will thin all of my lines. I might like that, I might not, right? But to some degree, I think that's helpful. It still looks good. So I want to remember that. 45 for mine. I can also play with all of these, and they can kind of mess with it in interesting ways. I can click on Simplify. This is the most basic, and I can just say this is with 90% anchors. I can just say I only want 15% anchors. And it's going to really simplify how many anchor points, but I'm going to lose a lot of quality, right? So you can control all these things. And then, once you're happy with it, one thing I want to get, let's see if I can get the white back in this eye so I can color it. So let's see, let's make the threshold, or the noise, the tolerance for noise, even smaller. I think that's how it works. So the way noise works, there it is, yeah, this is how small do you want individual things to show up? And it's supposed to get rid of like stray marks, but because we digitally inked it, I don't have any stray marks. So I can have like very little noise. Like if I want these back toenails not to bleed together in my vector. Take it down a lot. Take its threshold down a little bit. There we go. You start to get those toenails. It won't give me both of them, but I'll show you how I can fix that. So that really smooths it out. But that maybe gives me a little, yeah, that rounded out all of my teeth. It still looks pretty good, but I want it to be a little less simplified. So I'm going to put the threshold up a little bit more. And you play with these settings until you're happy with it. And then this is how you finish it off. I'm going to put it back on the white, though it doesn't matter if I do. And then I'm going to hit in the bottom right-hand corner, expand. It's just always been that way. Expand will turn it into vectors. So once I hit that, now I can see the anchor points that make up each shape, that make it infinitely scalable. Why I love this is now I can go in and I can clean it up completely. So these toenails in Illustrator, it's also good for you, since you've only used vector.com, Illustrator is a little different, to get to play with it a little bit. I'm going to use the small selection tool so I can see the anchor points. Then I'm going to use the eraser. I can double click on the eraser, make it smaller. Just cut a new toenail out right there. And now because I have that cut, I can use the pencil tool. This is my favorite tool. I set it to be smooth, just like the brush in Photopea, and then I can redraw the toenails by starting on the path and ending on the path. I can hold down Command to get back to the small selection tool, and I can redraw this toenail as well, make it bigger. Because when you live trace, you will need to change it. You will need to make alterations. But for the magic pencil tool to work, you always have to start on the path and end on the path. So I've got my toenails back. Other things look good. Let's look for the sloppy things that I said I would fix. It fixed a lot of that for me, like the insides, these overlaps of the hair, but I could go back and fix those. That looks great. You know, so there's a lot you can do to just kind of smooth it out and finish off your line art. So that's one. Remember, this is a test file. So now I'm going to save that. I'm going to say save as onto my computer, not as an Illustrator file, but as an EPS. Remember, EPS is my preferred version instead of SVG. An EPS. Now that that's saved, I'm going to do that whole thing again, and I'm not going to play with the advanced settings as much, because I feel like whenever I do that, I sacrifice things for everything I fix. Like I might have gotten that eye, but then I lost something else in simplicity somewhere else. So and then I can compare them side by side. So I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to bring it in. This one, I'm going to save it. I'm going to leave it over here. I'm going to lock it. Now I'm going to put another one in. Drag my test PNG in. Click on Properties. Go down to Image Trace. Choose Black and White Logo. Give me the advanced options. Ignore that color. What is it doing? I think I didn't hit return when I brought it in. I got to place it. Come on. What are you doing? All right, forget this. I'm going to open it again. I'm just going to call this Test 2. And I'm doing this to show you that image trace seems amazing, and it is, but it also has a cost. So it does give you a little loss of control. So you can also do it from their little helpful pop-up window, but it's good to know it's under Properties and under Image Trace, Black and White Logo. Boom, it's a vector, but it's not exported yet as a vector or expanded yet into a vector. And then Advanced Options, ignore the color. And then I'm just going to take it as it is. I'm not going to mess with any of this. And then I'm going to hit Expand. And sure enough, I still have the white in the eyeball. I still got the toes. I didn't need to mess with those settings as much as I thought, right? And then all the things I need to clean up are just the things I thought I would need to clean up anyway with my pencil tool. Kind of smoothing this out. Smoothing this out a little bit. This is me being really picky. Because remember, your spot illustration does not need to be as clean as like a logo needs to be. but all of my edges are kind of more refined than in the copy. So if I put them next to each other, you want to color the vector that you're happiest with, right? So let me select this all. Let me save it as an EPS. So this was test 2. So save as onto my computer as an EPS, test 2. I can open them both up on the desktop. Here's EPS test 2, and here's test 1. Let's open them both up just in preview. Oh, nope, preview can't open EPS files anymore. They changed that. Never mind. But I can see which one I like more. This one just got too rounded, too simplified. This is just a vector version of what I digitally inked. So this is what I want to color. Does that make sense? So don't give over your finish to the tools. You are empowered. Okay, so now I can close Illustrator. Don't need it anymore. I've got that EPS. So then, what do? I go back to my Photopea, and I bring in the EPS file. I drag and drop it, the one I want to use. And then it says it's a smart object, so you can see it's a smart object. I am now going to make it big enough with Option Command Transform. It does not need to be rasterized. It's a smart object. So if it gives you guff like that, because these things are always changing, let's save it out of Illustrator as an SVG, because we've done that before and brought that into Photopea, right? Because EPS is made to work between Adobe programs, and Photopea isn't officially an Adobe program. So if I open it up, test 2 in Illustrator, this time I'm going to say File, Save As. This will be the last thing we do. And then next class we'll color. I'm going to save it as an SVG, a scalable vector graphic, the most basic kind of vector graphic, with all the defaults. Minimize that. Find the SVG, it's right here. I'll mark it purple. And then I'm going to drag and drop that in, and then scale it up, holding down Option, because vector files are scalable. So I think EPS is kind of, it's always been my favorite, but I think it's losing its versatility with these new versions of the software. So now I can compare. This is the vector version, which is infinitely scalable, can be made any size. Underneath it is my raster version, and they're virtually identical, but I like the versatility of the vector, so that's what I'm going to use. So this is my vector line art. Now I can upload that, and we'll start that next class to Canvas. After your sketch, this is the next requirement. So I'm going to go ahead and save it, and that's what we'll pick up. And thank you guys. Let me know how I can help.